It's a Saturday afternoon in 1985, and your mom just said the four best words a kid could hear: "We're going to the mall." Not just any mall trip, either. This was the full circuit. Sears for a new pair of Toughskins jeans. Radio Shack to stare longingly at something with blinking lights. Maybe, if you behaved, a stop at Toys R Us on the way home. It felt like that world would last forever. The blue light would always flash at Kmart. The Wish book would always show up in the mailbox before Thanksgiving. But somewhere between the rise of the internet and the fall of the mall, an entire universe of American retail simply vanished. Today, we're walking back through those doors one more time, before they closed for good. Let's start with the king of the blue light itself, Kmart. At its absolute peak, Kmart operated more than 2,400 stores across the country, making it the biggest discount chain in America. And if you were shopping there, you knew the sound. That crackling overhead announcement, followed by the words "Attention Kmart shoppers," as a blue light began spinning somewhere in the store. It was called the Blue Light Special, a clever little trick to clear out slow-moving inventory by creating instant, 5-minute urgency. People would drop their carts and sprint. And after you'd fought your way through housewares, you could sit down in the in-store cafeteria for a hot sub sandwich, something almost nobody associates with a department store anymore. Kmart didn't just sell you things. It fed you, entertained you, and gave your Saturday a rhythm. Just down the road, there was Sears. It's almost hard to imagine now, but Sears was once the largest retailer in the entire country, with over 3,500 locations coast to coast. For generations of American families, the arrival of the Sears Wish book in the mail was practically a holiday in itself. Kids would dog-ear the toy pages until the catalog fell apart. And Sears wasn't just about Christmas dreams. It was the trusted name behind the tools in your dad's garage and the appliances in your mom's kitchen, thanks to legacy brands like Craftsman and Kenmore that lasted decades in real homes. Today, that once mighty empire has been reduced to fewer than 5 stores nationwide. A company that used to define American shopping itself, now barely a footnote on a map. If Sears was the heart of the home, Radio Shack was the heart of curiosity. At its height, Radio Shack had more than 7,000 locations, and it earned a reputation for something increasingly rare: actual knowledgeable staff who could explain what a capacitor did or help you wire a stereo system. They also had the Battery Club card, a little piece of cardboard that got you one free battery a month, which somehow felt like winning the lottery when you were 10 years old. But Radio Shack's biggest legacy might be this. It was one of the first stores in America to sell home computers to the average person, including the now legendary TRS-80. Long before anyone said the word smartphone, Radio Shack was already introducing regular families to the digital future. And speaking of childhood, no trip down memory lane is complete without Toys R Us. Founded by Charles Lazarus back in 1957, Toys R Us became the undisputed capital of childhood itself. Its mascot, Geoffrey the Giraffe, was as recognizable to kids as any cartoon character, and that jingle, the one that promised "I don't want to grow up, I'm a Toys R Us kid," is still stuck in the heads of an entire generation. Walking those aisles wasn't just shopping. It was a pilgrimage. Before the malls though, there was Main Street, and Main Street had Woolworth. Woolworth was the original 5 and dime, the kind of store where you could find nearly anything, sitting proudly at the center of almost every small town in America. But ask anyone who grew up going there, and they won't talk about the merchandise first. They'll talk about the lunch counter in the back, with its row of swivel stools, where you could get a milkshake or a grilled cheese and watch the whole town walk by outside the window. Woolworth finally closed its doors for good in 1997, taking a piece of small-town American life along with it. By the late 80s and 90s, a new kind of store was rising to take over, the electronics superstore, and nobody did it bigger than Circuit City. This was where families went to buy their first VCR, their first real television, their first Sirius stereo system. For a while, Circuit City was the second largest electronics chain in the entire country. But a new competitor named Best Buy, combined with the earthquake of online shopping, eventually proved too much, and Circuit City closed its doors in 2009. Books had their own cathedral too, and its name was Borders. If you loved reading, Borders wasn't just a store, it was a destination. Big cushioned chairs, the smell of coffee drifting between the shelves, and the quiet permission to sit for hours without buying a thing. It felt like it would last forever. But like so many others on this list, Borders couldn't survive the rise of Amazon, and by 2011, the chain had closed completely. Grocery shopping had its own giant too, one that's almost forgotten today, A&P, officially known as the Great Atlantic and Pacific Tea Company. At its peak, A&P operated an almost unbelievable 15,000 stores, capturing 1 out of every 8 grocery dollars spent in America. Longtime shoppers still remember the rich, unmistakable smell of 8 o'clock coffee beans, ground fresh right at the checkout lane, filling the whole store with warmth before you'd even paid for your groceries. Then there was Friday night itself, and Friday night meant Blockbuster. The ritual was always the same. Pile into the car, race inside, and make a beeline for the new releases wall, hoping your favorite title hadn't already been rented out. And of course, there was that gentle warning printed on every VHS case: be kind, please rewind. At its peak, Blockbuster had over 9,000 locations across the country. Today, there is exactly one Blockbuster left on planet Earth, a single store still standing in Bend, Oregon, a lonely little time capsule of a Friday night that doesn't exist anymore. Long before any of these stores existed, though, there was Montgomery Ward, founded all the way back in 1872 as the very first mail-order catalog business in the entire world. Generations affectionately nicknamed it Monkey Ward's, and it operated for well over a century before finally closing its doors in 2001. Not every closed chain disappeared without a trace, either. Take Zayre, a bright red sign, budget-friendly discount store that once dotted towns across the country. The Zayre name itself vanished after the chain was sold off in the late 1980s. But here's the twist. That same parent company used the bones of Zayre to build something else entirely, a little store you might have heard of called TJ Maxx, which is still thriving in nearly every town in America today. And finally, for something truly one of a kind, there was service merchandise. This wasn't a typical store at all. It was a catalog showroom, where you'd browse a massive printed catalog, write down item numbers on a little paper form using a golf pencil, and hand it over at the counter. Then, almost like magic, your item would come rolling out on a conveyor belt from somewhere deep in the back of the building. It felt like ordering from the future. Service merchandise finally closed its doors in 2002. From blue light specials to golf pencils and conveyor belts, these stores weren't just places to shop. They were the backdrop of birthdays, Christmas mornings, first paychecks, and lazy Saturday afternoons. The buildings may be gone now, turned into gyms, churches, or empty lots waiting for something new. But for anyone who grew up walking through those doors, the memories are still right there, as clear as the day the blue lights started spinning.